He came for nothing more than a sack of grain and a hot meal. But when Elias Boone rode into Dusty Hollow that morning, he didn't know one act of kindness from a lonely widow would change the course of his life forever. The sun had barely lifted over the red mesas when Elias Boone rode into town. His horse, Scout, was coated with dust, and his eyes were half-lidded from a week on the trail. Elias wasn't one for company. After years of drifting, working cattle drives, and sleeping under cold stars, he'd learned to live without expecting warmth from anyone. Dusty Hollow was just another stop. Just another town with cracked windows, creaking saloon doors, and tired faces. He tied Scout outside Miller's Feed and Grain, pushing open the door with a low creak. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of bread. A rare comfort out here. Behind the counter stood a woman in a plain blue dress, hair tied back neatly. Her eyes lifted, curious but calm. "Morning, stranger. What can I get you?" Elias adjusted his hat. "Just need a couple sacks of feed for my horse. Headin' north." She nodded and moved to fill his order, her movements graceful, deliberate. "Name's Lydia Hart. My late husband ran this place before." She trailed off, her voice softening. "Well, before the fever took him." Elias gave a quiet nod. "Sorry to hear that." Lydia smiled faintly. "Thank you. Been running it on my own since. Not easy, but it's home." He glanced around the tidy shop, the jars lined up neatly, the faint hum of an old clock ticking away the silence. "You've done all right by it." Their eyes met, a brief, wordless understanding between two souls shaped by loss. When Elias turned to leave, the wind outside had shifted, carrying the dark scent of rain. "You best wait it out," Lydia said, glancing at the sky. "Storms rollin' in fast." Elias hesitated. "Don't want to trouble you." "It's no trouble," she insisted with a small smile. "You'll be soaked before you make it out of town. I can make coffee." So he stayed. While thunder cracked above the plains, they sat by the window, sharing stories over steaming cups. Lydia talked about her husband, the loneliness of keeping the store alive, and how people in town had started forgetting to smile. Elias spoke little, but when he did, it was about the trail, the wild, and how silence could be both a friend and an enemy. When the wind howled against the windows, Lydia flinched slightly. Elias noticed. "You don't like storms much, do you?" She shook her head. "Not since that night. The fever took him during one just like this. Every time thunder rolls, I remember." Without thinking, Elias said softly, "Ain't no shame in remembering. Means you still got heart." Lydia blinked, eyes glistening. "And you, Mr. Boone? What do you remember?" He stared into his cup for a long moment. "Too much, and not enough." The rain fell harder, drumming against the roof like a heartbeat. And somewhere in the silence that followed, something shifted. Two strangers, one drifting, one rooted in grief, found warmth in each other's company. When the storm finally passed, Elias stood to leave. Lydia helped him tie the feed to his saddle. "You've got a quiet way about you," she said softly. "But you're kind." He tipped his hat. "And you've got more courage than most folks I've met." She smiled. "Maybe you'll stop by again sometime." He hesitated. "Maybe I will." As he rode out of town, the golden light of dusk spilled across the plains, and for the first time in years, Elias felt something other than emptiness. He didn't know it yet, but Lydia Hart had planted something deep in his heart that no storm could wash away. A week later, Elias Boone was miles away when he heard the news. Bandits had hit Dusty Hollow, and the woman who'd offered him shelter was in danger. He didn't think. He just rode. Scout's hooves thundered over the prairie as the wind whipped across his face. By nightfall, Elias reached the town he'd left behind. Only it wasn't quiet anymore. The grain store's window was shattered, the door hanging off its hinges. "Lydia!" he shouted, heart pounding. A groan answered from inside. He rushed in to find Lydia huddled behind the counter, blood on her temple but still conscious. "Elias," she whispered weakly. "They took everything." He knelt beside her, voice tight with anger. "Who?" "3 men. Came for money. Said I owed them taxes for using their land. He clenched his fists. Dusty Hollow had long been preyed upon by a gang that called themselves the Caldwell Boys. Men who thought fear was a business. They won't come back, Elias muttered, helping her to a chair. You can't, Lydia began, but he was already strapping his revolver back on. They came to your door. That makes it my fight too. The night swallowed him as he followed the bandits' tracks out to the old quarry road. 3 men sat by their campfire, laughing, counting stolen coins. Elias stepped into the firelight, his shadow stretching tall. Evenin', he said calmly. The laughter stopped. Well, looky here, the leader sneered. The drifter from town. You lost, cowboy? Elias tilted his hat. You took from a woman who's done nothing but survive. I'm here to collect it back. The man smirked. Or what? You'll shoot all 3 of us? Elias' voice dropped low. If I have to. The next few moments were a blur. One of the men lunged first, but Elias moved faster. A single gunshot cracked through the canyon. Another tried to draw. Elias kicked the weapon from his hand. Within seconds, the fight was over. When the dust settled, the bandits were on their knees, their loot scattered on the ground. Leave town, Elias warned, and don't ever ride back. They didn't argue. By dawn, Elias was back at Lydia's store. He placed the stolen coins on her counter. You got your store back, he said quietly. Lydia looked up at him, eyes trembling. You could have been killed. He shrugged lightly. Ain't the first time I've been shot at. She laughed softly, a sound like sunlight after rain. Why'd you come back, Elias? He paused. Guess I figured some places are worth coming back to. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't have to go again. He looked out the window, the horizon stretching forever, and for the first time it didn't look so lonely. Maybe I'll stay a while, he said finally. The weeks that followed brought life back to the store, and to both of them. Elias fixed the broken window, repaired the shelves, and built a new porch where Lydia sold bread and coffee to passing travelers. He never said it outright, but the way he looked at her, protective, gentle, alive, told her everything she needed to know. And Lydia, who once feared every storm, now found peace in the sound of rain on the roof. Because this time, she wasn't facing it alone. One evening, as the sun dipped low and Scout grazed outside, Lydia turned to Elias and said softly, You came for grain. He smiled faintly, and found gold instead.